it's Joanna and welcome back to another video for the alleyway stamps. And today I'm using this stamp set. It's called Rain Freeze and also Cake Day, and I'm using the sentiment from the last one. And I'm using a standard size card base, and then I have a card front that is slightly smaller. And I'm starting out by creating the background on the card front, and I'm using some distress ink to do that, and also a piece of plastic. This is actually from my Stamp Magic, but you can use any piece of acetate. Anything works fine. So I'm just smushing my ink onto my plastic sheet, and then I'm spritzing some water onto it. And this is not watercolor paper, this is just regular Neenah Solar white, so I can't have too much water, so I'm just using a paper towel to remove some of the water. And if you are using watercolor paper, your end result will be a little bit softer, but I like to have bright colors, so I like to work on Neenah Solar white, but you have to be careful not to add too much water onto it. So here I'm just smushing my plastic sheet onto my card base, creating my background. And this is really easy and really fast to do. And here I have some perfect pearls that I have mixed with water. And I want to add some shine onto my card base, so I'm just spritzing some perfect pearls onto my plastic sheet, and I'm smushing that onto the card base as well. And I'm using my heat tool to speed up the drying process. And as you can see, it has some areas that are really shiny. And I will put that aside under a heavy book so it will flatten out, and I will start working on my ice cream. And I start to stamp my cherry, and then I will create a little mask. So I'm using some post-it tape to do that. This is a really simple mask. And if you don't have post-it tape, you can just use regular paper. And then I'm stamping my ice cream. And I'm stamping in Memento because I'm going to do some copy coloring. And this is really good, this ink. It doesn't smear with Copics at all. And I'm using only two colors when I'm shading, so this is really easy copy coloring. And I want the ice cream to look like vanilla ice cream because that's my favorite. And since the card is pink, I'm starting out by layering down a really thin coat of pink, and then I will fade it out using my light gray Copic markers to shade it, but I want it to be pink in the bottom so it matches the card. And then I also use my colorless blender to smooth everything out. So this is super easy. And then I cut it out, and I'm leaving a thin white border around it. And now it's time for the sentiment, and I have this scrap piece of black paper, and I'm using my anti-static bag there just to prevent any strays from the embossing powder. And I'm stamping my sentiment with Versamark. This is a sticky ink, and it's perfect if you are doing embossing. And I just love that sentiment. Yippee skippy, it's so fun and so happy. And I'm using white embossing powder from Ranger. So I'm just tapping it on the back to get rid of any excess powder. And then I funnel everything back into the jar. And then I bring out my heat tool again, and I will melt this till the powder is melted completely. And I'm working the paper just a little bit to prevent too much warping. And now it's time to put everything together. So I'm using my ATG glue glider to glue down this background piece that we made it earlier, and I'm using quite a bit of tape here because it was a little bit warped. So I'm just pressing that in place. And now I've cut down my sentiment strip so it fits the card, and I want that to be raised, so I'm using my foam tape. And I'm cutting one of them in half so it will fit on the back. And then it's time to adhere it, so I'm just lining it up and pressing it in place. And I want my ice cream to sit right next to it, so I'm adding some foam tape onto the top of the ice cream, and then I will add some glue on the bottom. So I will add the cone onto the sentiment strip and the ice cream itself onto the card base. And if you are interested in any of the supplies that I used in this video, they are listed over at my blog, and you can find that address in the YouTube description down below. And I'm using some multi-medium matte from Ranger. And then I just press the ice cone in place. And just as a finish touch, I'm using my Wink of Stella on the cherry and also on the ice cream. And I'm also using some Glossy Accent, and I'm only using Glossy Accent on the cherry. And then the card is done. So I hope you like this card and you got inspired, and I hope to see you soon. Take care. Bye.